Hi, Sherry. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight? Hey, Sherry, are you with us? There you are. What's your question tonight?
If someone runs a red light and hits you in an automobile, how can you find out if they were texting or speeding?
Sure. So, fair question. There are ways to do that. It's typically going to involve a lawyer. It's going to involve a lawsuit, and it's going to involve some different subpoenas. Your lawyer can subpoena the cell phone records of the other driver. And from those cell phone records, they can't see what they were texting, but they can see when any text messages were sent or received. And so you can sort of extrapolate from the time on the accident report versus the time on the cell phone records of when these text messages were going in and out. And a lot of times they'll also include data usage. Now, data usage can be a more difficult variable to try and really figure out what it means, because so many of these apps run in the background. And so you can be doing nothing and still be using data. And that's typically going to involve some sort of cell phone expert to try to decipher, was the level of data being used indicative of the individual using their cell phone while driving, or was it, most likely related to background apps or these apps that run even when your phone is in the cup holder. Your other question of can you find out if the other driver was speeding, the answer to that is if they were in a more modern automobile.
Okay.
So most modern automobiles have a computer similar to what we might think of as maybe a black box in an airplane. And these computers store data typically for 5 to 10 seconds leading up to the impact. And so you can extrapolate from that, what the speed was prior to impact, when the brakes were applied, different things along those lines. Again, that's going to require an expert to both download and then interpret the data. So the short answer to it is yes, it can be done. What you didn't hear me say is how much all that costs.
Yeah, that's going to cost some money.
If we're talking about a situation where, look, no one was really hurt here, you're not going to find a lawyer that's going to go spend that money, hire those experts, and try to put that case together. But if you're talking about a situation where someone was injured or catastrophically injured, certainly, a lawyer's going to go through all those steps to try and sort out and determine, who's at fault and why. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is video footage. And sometimes people have dash cams. I'm involved in a case right now where we called all the different witnesses who were involved in the wreck, and one of those witnesses was driving a truck for a corporate company, and it had a dash cam, and you can see the actual accident on the dash cam. Now it involved a subpoena to try to get that dash cam footage. But that can be done. Also, lots of times gas stations, if it's a more rural road and people have these Ring doorbell cameras, sometimes these pick these things up. But it requires a couple things. We see these TV shows, these criminal TV shows, and a crime happens and the police come out, and the first thing they do is they put up the yellow tape, and they tape off the crime scene, and they put up the little placards, and they take photographs, and they gather the evidence, and they put it in little baggies, and they do all these things, right? But, if you fall in a store or you have a car accident, there's no one running out there and taping off the scene and gathering up this evidence. So a lot of times, if it is a situation where liability is disputed or someone is seriously injured, it is important to contact a lawyer early on. And that lawyer can determine whether or not, hey, we need to run out and kind of set up a crime scene and measure these tire marks before the rain washes them away, and all these different things. The police don't necessarily always clean up accident scenes.
Right.
So a lot of times there's debris on the side of the road, bumpers, different things, and you can sort out where the accident exactly occurred on the roadway. So there's a lot that goes into accident scene investigation and how we handle those, but it's done sort of on a case-by-case basis.
You've then got to get that video or that information in, right? So you've got to have the right people show up for court to be able to get that video played and to authenticate that that is what it says it is, and it was the right day and right time.
Absolutely.
So that's more work.